Turning to the conflict in the Middle East now, where the Israeli military says it's killed a key Hezbollah commander during its bombardment of Lebanon that's killed 569 people. Meanwhile, in New York, the UN Secretary-General has warned of Lebanon becoming another Gaza at an annual gathering of world leaders. We're joined now by Middle East correspondent Alison Horn in Jerusalem and our North America correspondent Carrington Clark in New York City. To you first, Alison, what's the latest in Lebanon?
Good morning, Bridge. For the second day in a row now, Israel has continued its aerial bombardment campaign across Lebanon in what some witnesses we've spoken to have said has felt like an unending wave of destruction. One of those airstrikes was on a building in Lebanon's capital, Beirut, where Israel says it killed a senior Hezbollah commander. But more than 550 others have also been killed across the few days of this aerial campaign. Lebanon's Ministry of Health says the majority of those killed are civilians, including a large number of women and children. Israel says it believes that many of the people that have been killed are Hezbollah members, but this is now the deadliest period of hostility between Hezbollah and Israel in several decades. Tens of thousands of Lebanese civilians are now displaced from their homes after fleeing from danger zones. They are now taking shelter in makeshift evacuation centres like schools and mosques and churches. Some people we've spoken to said they are prepared to be there for several months. They believe that this situation will escalate. Hezbollah, in retaliation to these Israeli airstrikes, has sent continuous barrages of rockets deep into Israeli territory. Most of them have been intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome, so very little damage caused in Israel. No one has been killed in this part of the world here, but Israel has also said that it is ready to engage with more strikes. It's got more strikes ready for targeting Hezbollah weaponry. It has said that it does want this to be a short-lived aerial campaign, but it is foreshadowing that it will stay there for as long as it feels it needs to, and it isn't ruling out the possibility of a ground invasion.
Carrington, I want to bring in you now. World leaders have been speaking on this at the UN. What have they had to say?
Yeah, New York might be very far away physically from Lebanon, but it's front of mind for the world leaders who are arriving here at the United Nations High Level Week. This is the opportunity for the leaders and foreign ministers to speak to the General Assembly and talk about issues that are currently issues for their people and for the world. Today we did see what appears to be the swan song address from US President Joe Biden. He said this is his fourth appearance in his capacity as president. He's only in the last few months of his presidency, and the issues around this widening of the conflict in the Middle East was front of mind for the president.
And on each side of the Israeli-Lebanon border remain displaced. A full-scale war is not in anyone's interest. Even if the situation has escalated, a diplomatic solution is still possible. In fact, it remains the only path to lasting security, to allow the residents from both countries to return to their homes and the border safely. And that's what we're working tirelessly to achieve.
Now, Joe Biden tried to give an optimistic prediction for the future, saying that the world can work towards peace, both in the Middle East and in other conflict zones in Sudan and in Ukraine. But there is little evidence here at the United Nations of any compromise being sought by the different sides, and that there is a practical roadmap for peace. We will continue to hear, obviously, speeches from world leaders as they implore people to come to the table to negotiate. But unfortunately, with the scenes only seemingly getting worse, particularly in the Middle East, it's hard to find an optimistic point of view.